trying to get by Benning. Darnell Nurse left it in the corner, gets up center. Perry scores! Corey Perry!
Ilya able to shake away from Solani. It's given away to Solani. Around in front. Score! Teemu Solani with the steal.
Three of the fans want one. Score! Off the floor! On the board! Paul Kariya!
Hey, Ducks fans, we're back. It's the Forever Mighty post-game show, New Year's Day edition. It's myself, Patrick, alongside Eddie for today's show. Jason's out doing whatever, wherever, family stuff. But this is not a hungover edition. As anyone who's listening live, this is well into basically the end of vacation for most people. It's 5 o'clock here in California. We're here to talk about the Ducks and their unfortunate loss last night in overtime at the hands of the league-leading Tampa Bay Lightning, one of the most deadly teams in the league, Eddie. Holy hell, man. They were this close to not breaking our hearts. But they decided to start the new year on a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah, it didn't feel as bad as the last overtime loss against the Arizona Coyotes, where it was kind of a much more heartbreaking game, back and forth, 5-5 or 5-4 final. A game the Ducks probably should have easily won, and gave up they gave up 3 2-goal leads in that game. This one this one, I think it always had the potential to be this type of game if John Gibson was on his game, and he was. He was great in this game. It was a goaltending battle between arguably 2 of the best goaltenders in the league, in Vasilevsky and John Gibson. And, I went on the Baybolt's Thunderstruck podcast, and I kind of threw the Ducks under the bus a bit and said that, they're on a 5-game losing streak, just allowing 5 goals to the Arizona Coyotes, going in against the top-scoring team in the NHL, a team who's lost 1 game in December to the Winnipeg Jets in overtime. They've scored almost 5 goals per game in the month of December. I thought it was just going to be a massacre. No matter what John Gibson did, he would have to stand on his head, which luckily he did. But the Ducks actually played well as a team. It wasn't like John Gibson bailed them out like we saw earlier in the season, made like 50 saves, and the Ducks just couldn't get anything going. I think this was one of their best games of the year, despite losing.
Yeah, no, they played strong. I mean, you look at all the stats across the board, the Ducks were leading on all the offensive categories, and for the most part, the Lightning didn't get too many good looks. I mean, because they did. I mean, if I'm Steven Stamkos, I'm breaking my stick twice tonight, because he probably should have had 2 easy goals with the abilities he's been able to show in his career, being able to snipe pucks in top corners. But John Gibson, man, he's been something else when he wants to, and it feels like he turned it on tonight, man. I mean, all that Vezina talk, he's got to know people are talking about it, and I don't think he's the kind of guy that lets it get to his head or anything like that. But, I mean, these are the 2 teams. One goalie's in the spotlight because he's on the best team in the league. The other goalie, not so much. John Gibson kind of gets love here and there. I mean, we all like to freak out and talk about it and blow it up when he gets a little bit of international or league-wide talk about being a good goaltender. But he really, really shown tonight, man. And this game could have gone either way, honestly.
Yeah, he's gotten more press this year. It felt like, we saw a little bit of people doing it last year, saying that he got snubbed for the Vezina. We had Paul from In Goal Media or In Goal Magazine who came on, and he was one of the guys who I think that's where the discussion really started heating up last year, when he said that John Gibson had some of the best underlying numbers when you look at Pekka Rinne and Hellebuck and Vasilevsky last year, that he was really saying that Bobrovsky and John Gibson playing on worse teams were kind of getting overlooked for being nominated for that award. And now this year you got a lot of people recognizing what John Gibson's doing. That's probably because the Ducks are just not as good a team as they were last year. Not that they were good by any means last year, but they had some other things to cover up the fact that John Gibson was just playing out of his mind. We've seen John Gibson on a regular occasion have to just be the best player on the ice and win the Ducks games this year, and people have started to take notice, and he's kind of made them take notice. And I think he deserves to be that favorite right now. But I mean, man, Vasilevsky played a great game too. I mean,
he did.
He's a great young goaltender, and I think they're going to probably battle it out, not just for the rest of this season, but probably for the next few years. as the top 2 goaltenders in the league, I wouldn't be surprised.
No, me either. I mean, you get these other guys that pop in and out. Some media's talking about Halak, and I'm like, come on. I mean, he's had a good run here and there, but Halak's nowhere near the elite level of John Gibson or Vasilevsky. So, no, man, it was definitely a battle of the goaltenders tonight. The high danger chances favored the Lightning. They also had 3 power plays that contributes to it. But 5-on-5, man, the Ducks stuck with it. And I got to talk about this first goal. You want to break it down, because I have to go after a buddy of mine, a Patreon subscriber actually, who likes to bag on my boy Hampus here. So go ahead.
It was a defensive breakdown from a couple of guys, and I know what you're probably going to get into with Hampus Lindholm, but a lot of the criticism on that goal went to Hampus last night, and I don't think it was a breakdown.
We completely lost your audio, man. You're out.
Oh, weird.
There you go.
Where did I leave off?
We didn't even get to you started talking about the goal and you cut out.
I have no idea what's going on with my mic. For anybody that knows, it's been a journey trying to get this set up, and now it just randomly auto went on mute. So that's new. That's nice. Anyway, I was criticizing Brandon Montour for getting walked more than once in this game by Braden Point, but he gets walked on the first goal. Doesn't recover. Not only that, Andrew Cogliano was slow on the back check, which you don't really see from him that often. He allows Cernak, who's a defenseman, to get up into the play, and Hampus Lindholm's forced to defend a 2-on-1 between Cernak and the best player currently in the league, Nikita Kucherov, and the pass comes over, and Kucherov is not...
I muted you again, man.
I don't know. Just take it away. I'll figure it out.
Just switch to your laptop mic for the show. Yeah, so this play, it kind of leaves Hampus Lindholm hanging a bit. I feel like at the point where the puck goes into the Ducks zone, mistakes happen. You can't talk about Montour being a bad defender. I mean, he maybe had a rough game on a couple of shifts here, but there's not much Hampus could do. And I want to blow up Chris on this just because he gave me a text about how, like, it's more than just, keeping the puck out of your zone. You got to be able to defend it when it's in your zone. That's a correct statement. I understand that. But a 2-on-1, when it's happening right at your doorstep, when there was no business for it happening in the first place, 2 guys lose their men along the rush. And next thing you know, Nikita Kucherov is burying basically a one-time wrist shot pass that was perfectly executed. It's hard for me to put that blame on Hampus Lindholm, and I've been critical of his play as of late, but I mean, that was completely undeserved. And yeah, there's a lot that goes into making a great defenseman. It's not just about keeping the puck out of your zone. You're talking zone exits, zone entries, things like that. You're able to keep defenders on the perimeter, or the offensive guys on the perimeter when you're playing D. That's all important. But to criticize a guy on a 2-on-1 like that, that's kind of tough, man. I mean, and 2-on-1s are hard in general. Yeah. So
there's been a lot of Hampus Lindholm hate lately. I mean, more than you normally expect. This is usually a guy who gets all the praise in the world, not just from Ducks fans, but from everybody else. But I sent you that post in Ducks Nation, I think a couple of days ago now, that was saying that Lindholm is looking like the Ducks' 4th or 5th best defenseman right now. And then now people were criticizing him for his play on the 2-on-1 in overtime against Arizona, with Clayton Keller, and the great play that Keller made just to freeze John Gibson. And again, maybe not the best effort from Hampus Lindholm, but it's kind of tough to defend that no matter what, and not everybody's perfect at that. And then Hampus Lindholm again getting criticized on this goal when he probably doesn't deserve it here. I don't get it. I mean, this is the guy who has to play 24, 25 minutes a night. He's right now, when he's tasked with doing that with Cam Fowler out, he's not going to look perfect, but I haven't seen him look horrible. And for somebody to say he's the 4th or 5th best defenseman on this blue line right now, that means you're putting guys like Jake Dotchin in front of him, or Jacob Larson, or Josh Mahura, who didn't look bad, but you're putting those guys in front of Hampus Lindholm. I mean, maybe the only guy you could argue who's been better than him is Brandon Montour, and that's just because he's putting up points.
And Montour got walked on this play, so
twice,
I mean, things happen. Things happen. I mean, things happen. He hasn't had an amazing stretch. He hasn't been the most spectacular defenseman that we've come to see. But it's hard to find guys outside of Ondrej Kase who've just been consistently great.
Yeah.
So, and John Gibson, I don't want to leave him out. And you know, even Ryan Getzlaf's offense slowed down a tiny bit, right? So, ebbs and flows of the game. People get hot, people get cold. Lindholm's definitely having a hard time. But as we all know, the defense has had a hard time this season.
Yeah, but Ondrej Kase, like you mentioned, he stayed hot in this game because when we get to the Ducks' first goal, he makes a great play to get that puck over to Nick Ritchie for an open net. Nick Ritchie almost doesn't put it into the net because he kind of whiffs on the pass originally and then just slides it in to pass Vasilevsky. He makes a pretty good effort to make the save, but Ondrej Kase not only gets it through two guys, one of those guys is Victor Hedman, who I'm sure we didn't see any criticism on Victor Hedman being able to defend that 2-on-1, but I'm not sure who the other Lightning player is. I was trying to check the recap to see who it was, but I couldn't see it. But yeah, he slides it through two guys to Nick Ritchie, and that line...
Nearly three.
Yeah.
There was two and then a third covering Ritchie. Where's the criticism on Hedman there, Chris?
No.
If you listen to the show, you better pop out with some criticism on Victor Hedman.
But that line has been unbelievable for the last few games, especially. I mean, in that game against Arizona, they were the Ducks' best line, and they've been at times this year, and they get the only goal for the Ducks in this game, and Ondrej Kase stays hot too.
Yeah. No, man. Beautiful play by Ondrej Kase. I mean, the fact that puck even found room to get between those guys, honestly, was beautiful. And then Vasilevsky nearly got a toe on that puck because that guy's got ridiculous wingspan with those legs. But Nick Ritchie buries it. I think that's 4 points in the last two games for Nick Ritchie, right? Goal and 3 assists. He looks like he's picking up some steam here, so good for him. And that's where you want to see him noticeable. We want to see Nick Ritchie up on the score sheet because that's what's going to get him, basically in this lineup to stay on this line. Otherwise, you're going to have to put him down on the fourth line or shuffle him around. He's got to produce when he's playing with a guy like Ondrej Kase. I
kind of want to talk about Nick Ritchie a little bit because we talked about him when he was really hot out of the gate to start the season. And then, the talk about him was kind of dissipated a bit. Not that he's played bad, but it's just kind of moved, I guess, probably over to Ondrej Kase. And that Nick Ritchie really hasn't got much of the focus. But if you look at his first 26 games since signing his contract and coming back and playing for the Ducks, he has 5 goals and 12 assists. So he's got 17 points in 26 games. If you kind of, I guess, put that across a whole season or at least just multiply that by 3, which puts him at about 78 games, that is 51 points on the year for Nick Ritchie. If you just say he's going to miss 4 games, and if you want to put it out there, he's going to finish. He would have finished the season with about 52 points and 15 goals and about 36 assists. If he puts up that on a regular basis, if this is the new Nick Ritchie, after what we talked about this summer, him working out with Gary Roberts, looking like a much leaner guy, his skating looks better. He just looks like he's more engaged in the play. Is this a new Nick Ritchie? Is he gonna be a 40-50 point guy now? Because nobody's really talking about it.
I mean, he's at 5-on-5. He's second in assists on the team as well, right? And 6 of his 10 assists are first assists. So he's getting, he's playing well, and he's getting in those chances, right? That we need to see him convert on, whether it's a pass or whether it's a goal. And I mean, he's the second leading scorer 5-on-5 for Anaheim.
Yeah. And I think that one of the big things is, too, he does it occasionally still, but he's not taking dumb penalties all the time.
Sorry, third. There was 2 people tied for second, so still.
Either way. But, he has 26 penalty minutes, I think, in 26 games, which is right on pace, which he normally does. He's usually a guy who has about as many penalty minutes as he does games played. So he's taken about a penalty every other game. So that's not too bad. I mean, I think that's always going to be the way he plays because he plays on the edge, but I haven't seen him take as many dumb penalties, if you want to call them that, as he did last year, which is a huge part of his game. But I just like the extra, maybe not speed, but the skating ability that he has. You can see it, and just how he seems like he's having more fun, which is it's kind of cliche. But he just seems like he's more engaged. He just seems like he wants to be there. He's ready to play. He felt like a lazy player to watch before this season. And I don't know. There's just something about him that's changed, and he really looks like he's ready to go. And maybe he's not going to be the guy we expected still at 10th overall. But if Nick Ritchie's could all of a sudden be a 40 or 50 point guy. That's huge. I mean, that's what Corey Perry's giving us right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, and he needs to find that. He needs to find that game. We've been talking about it for a couple of years now. This is the point where he gets that new contract. He held out. Now you got to step up and earn that cash, right? And get your place on the roster and solidify yourself as an NHLer. I mean, people were still calling for him to be traded. And honestly, we did. I mean, not to give away what we did on our bonus shows, but we all did our Seattle draft preview for our bonus show for Patreon. We talked about who we would keep, and none of us had Nick Ritchie protected.
Yeah.
But things change. There's plenty of time between now and then to make up the minds of Ducks fans, or more importantly, Bob Murray, right, on who he's going to protect come draft time. And Nick Ritchie, if he's putting up 40, 50 points a season, that's the kind of stuff we were expecting out of Ryan Kesler.
Yeah.
So if he's able to pick up the slack where we see the older guys falling off a bit due to injury, that's huge for Nick and huge for the Ducks.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing before we get into this overtime goal that I want to talk about is Kiefer Sherwood found his way on the top line in this game with Ryan Getzlaf and Daniel Sprong to start the game, and I believe it finished with Pontus Aberg and Kiefer Sherwood on the top line with Ryan Getzlaf after Randy Carlyle tried to switch things up. So he got the line blender going again. I think I was a little bit surprised because it's not like Kiefer Sherwood's been lighting it up and they're just trying to give him an opportunity. Daniel Sprong came in, he scored in his first game. They said, okay, we're going to put you with Ryan Getzlaf, see what you can do. Pontus Aberg, when he got thrown up there, he was playing really well. He was putting up goals, and they're like, okay, we'll try you with Getzlaf to see if that can improve or become more consistent. Kiefer Sherwood has 1 goal in his last 5 games. It came against San Jose. He got fed a puck in the slot and was able to beat Martin Jones with a shot. I don't know. I don't get the move. I mean, I don't understand you're trying to move some things around, but not only do you move him up to that top line, you moved him to his offside on the left wing. Interesting move from Randy Carlyle to try and spark offense, I guess.
I didn't like it. Wasn't my favorite move. He's not a finisher in the NHL. Kiefer Sherwood, we would have seen more chances from him playing lesser opponent, right? If he's playing on that third and fourth line, and that's where he's scoring. I mean, not to say he doesn't deserve a shot, right? You got to mix it up every now and again. But I was just surprised by it. I think if anyone deserves to play with Ryan Getzlaf, you're talking to Andre Kasha there. I was honestly kind of shocked that they put Sherwood on the top line, because that energy line, when he is playing on that lower role, the checking role, whatever you want to call it, that guy is a buzzsaw, and he flies up and down the ice. You see him just full hustle on his stride, trying to back check and get in on the forecheck when the puck goes the other way. So I don't know. I think he's good in that utilization. I mean, if he would have came in on this game though and put in a goal or two, maybe you had something different to say about him. No,
probably, yeah. I think if he does, I mean, it's not that he looked bad, but I think if he gets at least a couple good chances or pots a goal or two, then we're looking at this maybe saying, is he going to be a permanent spot on that first line? But for me, I think I agree with everything you said about him being an energy guy and almost being a Cogliano type player, where he's out there for what he does defensively and his speed and using it on the forecheck and just kind of being a pest and annoying guys with that speed. He's more suited to put on the fourth line because he doesn't really have that offensive upside, and then putting a guy like Pontus Aberg instead on the fourth line when he's the complete opposite player where the defense isn't really there. But if he's put with a guy who can get him the puck, he has a better shot and a better ability to put the puck in the back of the net. So it almost seems like he's destined to play with Ryan Getzlaf at this point because Andre Kasha, Henrique, and Nick Ritchie have found chemistry on that second line, and it seems like they're just going to keep Kessler, Cogliano, and Silfverberg together just because they don't really want to split that up or do anything with that line. So, yeah, I don't get it. I think it's a bit weird. At this point, the only thing I'd maybe consider changing is maybe try Silfverberg again on the left side with like Getzlaf and Sprong and see if that changes anything. I'm not sure.
When is Ryan Kesler going to score?
Never.
We're at halfway point of the season.
Never. He had a couple good chances.
He had
in the last
5
few games.
shots on goal last night. He led the entire team in shots on goal and wasn't able to bury a puck.
He's looked better. Like he's had the last 2 games, he's had a couple of really good offensive chances, and he just hasn't scored. And the goaltender in Arizona, Aiden Hill robbed him on the power play, where he probably should have, but he didn't score.
Yeah.
And he had a good chance early on in this game too, where Vasilevsky made a good glove save. That one actually came closer to going in, because I think it hit the bottom of Vasilevsky's glove, and Vasilevsky makes some unorthodox saves sometimes, so it looked really weird, and I think it looked harder of a save than it really was. But again, Ryan Kesler in a good spot, being able to get a significant scoring chance, and I think he's obviously due for one. We know he's due for a goal. It's been a long time. What is it now? Is it 32 games since scoring
34 games.
34 games.
No. He has 34 games with 1 goal. It's been 25 games since he scored his last goal.
So does I know our original bet was 30 games with 1 goal. Is it gonna be? Do you think he gets to 30 before he hasn't scored a goal in his last 30? So in the next 5 games, does he score a goal? Is it a new year, new Ryan Kesler? Does he score in 2019?
Dude, the fact that he has 1 goal in 25 that's rough. That is rough for him, dude. And not even just that, but I think he has 2 points in 25 games. That's not a good look for him. His ice time was down yesterday too. He played 15 minutes. And maybe it's because they didn't have enough power plays to get him on the top power play unit. I don't know. But anyone who wants to hear me say this might think I don't like him. I love Ryan Kesler. And he was such a huge part of the excitement when he came over to Anaheim. Everyone was stoked on it, I mean,
he was a great player when he first came over too.
And it's not that he's not a great player. It's just that he's
hurt.
He's hurt. He had an incredibly horrible injury, and then having to relearn how to skate again and all that. I hate being tough on the guy, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope he lights it up the rest of the way, man. The Ducks need it, and he needs it, honestly. So
I'm just happy to see him look. I'm just happy to see him look better. At least you kind of notice him a bit more. It's been really sad to watch that line lately, and they just get demolished every time they go out there. And they were, at least when you look at shot attempts, they were one of the better lines for the Ducks on the night against Tampa Bay, which I guess you wouldn't expect when you look at they were probably either out against Kucherov and Braden Point, or Stamkos, because they're on separate lines. I'm sure Kessler's unit was tasked with shutting them down. I would have to guess it was probably Stamkos' line, and a lot of that credit probably goes to John Gibson a bit too, because he robbed Stamkos about 3 or 4 times in this game and some pretty good chances. But talking about Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov, they made the Ducks pay in overtime when we finally get to this goal here, and kind of a little bit of a broken play. The puck bounces.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, it makes a weird bounce where it kind of bounces past Brandon Montour and right onto Braden Point's stick when Braden Point is in behind Montour, and then he just muscles, like they said, muscles off Brandon Montour on the broadcast.
I don't know.
I mean, it is a great play by Point to shield the puck and then also make a move to the backhand to deke out John Gibson. I'm not taking anything away from that, but I don't think it's muscles out Brandon Montour. And Montour is literally jumping on the back of Braden Point, trying to take a penalty or just trying to do something. But Point this year has just been unbelievable when he puts it past John Gibson.
Yeah, I don't know what you want to say about the play here when it comes to Brandon Montour. I mean, he whacked at the puck, he swung at the puck, and the puck just stayed in front of him, in front of Point on that play, and Gibby got froze. Right? He's expecting a shot. Most guys don't come in and deke like that when they have a guy draped all over him. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to get a shot away, and it's just a beautiful play by Braden Point. Honestly, that was just a gorgeous goal. I don't know what you want to say about him other than I don't know. It's hard to put fault on John Gibson in that situation, and kind of an unfortunate play for Brandon Montour. I mean, I guess you could say you pull a guy down, then you get a penalty shot in overtime. I mean, you take what you want. It's just an unfortunate play.
I think you don't pull a guy down there and you hope John Gibson makes the save. So I get it. You don't pull a guy, especially a guy like Braden Point down, who's one of their best players on that type of situation on the breakaway. You hope John Gibson can make the save. Unfortunately, Point makes a great move. John Gibson has no chance. And, it's a disappointing ending to one of the best games of the season for the Ducks against a team who's just on fire. Like I said, they had only lost one game in December. It was in overtime to Winnipeg Jets, who are arguably one of the best teams in the Western Conference, if not the league. You were the other team who pushed them to overtime and almost beat them. and they bullied some teams this year. You know, this is a team,
they're so good.
This is a team, again, in December, who had only scored less than 4 goals once, and you kept them to 2. Like this, you know, that's ridiculous. And again,
And it took extra time.
Yeah, and a lot of the credit, of course, goes to John Gibson, and probably most of it. But this team, it's not like they got caved in. They actually were on top of the Lightning for the entire game in shot attempts. There were some times where they didn't look great, and the Lightning got, you know, some sustained period of time where they had a lot of puck possession, but that's going to happen when you're a top team and you can go out there and on 2 separate shifts you can put out Kucherov, Point, and Stamkos, and you know you're going to get some time where you're hemmed in your own zone. But this was a great effort for the Ducks. It would have been nice to come out with 2 points. It is nice to get at least 1, and hopefully they can maybe get some momentum after playing well. Look at it, you know, on the bright side and say, hey, we just almost beat the best team in the league. This is how we should be playing on a nightly basis, because if we play like this against teams who aren't as dangerous, we could do some serious damage.
No, I would agree with you on that, man. I guess to kind of further the offensive side of things, I'm trying to think of the way to put it, but they kept pace with them.
Yeah,
they kept pace with the most potent team. You look at the chances 5-on-5, and if you want to get rid of shot attempts, get rid of shot attempts. Look at shot quality. High danger chances were there, right there, on par with the most dangerous team in the league. So 2 of the best goaltenders. Honestly, I think they're the 2 best goaltenders in the world right now.
Yeah,
Vasilevsky and Gibson, and we got to see them go head to head. Both of them had to make great saves. I mean, Manson was denied in front on just a big body. I mean, Vasilevsky's a giant and able to get the bottom of his glove on it. Gibby had to make great saves, like you said, on Stamkos. And, you know, this is a tight game, and it was hard fought. The Ducks weren't buried, like you said. So, I mean, you got to take this. And if you duplicate that here on Friday against the Golden Knights, who are not the same team that we saw last year, although they have beaten the Ducks already, but they're not the same team, I think you have a really good chance at the game on Friday. You're able to duplicate this performance.
Yeah, and let's kind of get into that game. We might as well preview it here because it is an important game for the Ducks. When you look at that, they're in that top wild card spot right now, and I believe, let me double check here, Vegas actually has moved in front of San Jose for now, with San Jose has 1 game in hand. But it's a big game to kind of gain ground on these teams. The Ducks only are 5 points behind Vegas. A win against them, you move within 3 points, and you're just kind of on the outside looking in to get back in the picture. They are not.
Your audio's being weird again, man.
Oh, I guess.
Anyway, You're good. You're good now.
Okay, I'm good. Okay, so Vegas, like I said, they're not like they were last year. They aren't the powerhouse, I guess you could say, but they've turned things around a bit. They've won 3 games in a row. They beat Colorado 2-1, LA 4-1, and Arizona 5-1. So not the best team, especially the last 2. You're going against 2 of the worst teams when you look at goals for, and Arizona scored 1 against you, and LA scored 1 against you. And then they have LA today, actually, coming up in I think about an hour. They play the LA Kings. We'll see how that game goes, and then they get a couple days rest to go play us. It'll be an interesting matchup. It's one of the obviously the bigger ones when you look at the picture in the Pacific Division. But I think the Ducks, if they play like they did against Tampa Bay, they should have no problems.
No, and they have to play that style of game. The Sharks are a funny team, though. I know we're talking about Vegas coming up and previewing them, but what a strange team. You know, get Erik Karlsson. We all thought they were going to be this powerhouse in the Pacific. Lo and behold, a stupid Canadian team is leading the Pacific Division. Eddy's Calgary Flames that he picked here, and then they put up an 8 spot against the Sharks. The Flames put up 8 goals against the Sharks in their last game, which is insane to me. So, looking at Vegas though, the fact that they've been able to keep up, man, they're 12-3-3 at home. So that place is still just a nightmare to play in. Yep. On the road, they're below 500. So that bodes well for Anaheim. I guess the problem that they're going to have is they're running into kind of a hot team. They're on a 3-game win streak. They're 6-1-3 in their last 10. And the Ducks, honestly, are sitting at 500 at 4-4-2. And we all know how the story's gone for the Ducks. They went on a hot streak, and then they cooled way off with a 6-game losing streak. But the Ducks aren't too bad at home. I mean, they're still 1 game below 500 if you look at overtime. Hasn't been nice to Anaheim this year. But I think that you're right. I think that you have a better goaltender in net. Obviously, Gibson's going to get the start because there is no clear-cut backup right now with Miller being injured, and they're not going to throw in a rookie when they don't need to. It's not a back-to-back. Gibby's not injured, so you're going to see John Gibson on Friday in Anaheim. And the Ducks have the longest homestand of their season coming up, and it kicked off last night. They got a point out of it, but they really need to make a statement on this homestand, Eddie, in order to maintain in this division. They're the only team in the playoff spot right now with a negative goal differential of -18. So that doesn't look good. And that just goes to show you that the Ducks are riding on some specifics to keep them in. And we all know that's John Gibson.
Yeah, and I think one of the keys for this game is this is going to be a different look Vegas team than the Ducks have been used to this season. For a while, it was William Karlsson up the middle, and that was it. And they were putting guys there by committee and figuring things out. Pacioretty won't be playing, I assume. I'm pretty sure he's still out with a lower body injury. But the big difference is now Paul Stastny is back. He's played 12 games now for the Vegas Golden Knights. He has 9 points. He has 6 points in his last 3 games, where he's gotten a goal and an assist in each of the last 3. Now it's a 2-threat team. You've got 2 guys up the middle. You've got William Karlsson on the first line, and now you've got Paul Stastny, who is also producing on the second line. They're a harder team to match up against. You're going to have Ryan Kessler, who's probably going to go against William Karlsson because the Ducks are going to be at home. They're going to get the better of the opportunity to match up against what pairing they want to. But then somebody's going to have to contain Paul Stastny. And whether that's Getzlaf and his line, if they want to give some freedom to Adam Henrique, Nick Ritchie, and Ondrej Kase the way they're playing, or if that's Ondrej Kase and Nick Ritchie and Adam Henrique against Paul Stastny, they're going to have to try and outplay that line. So that's a big matchup for me. It's a new look Vegas Golden Knights team getting some help later on in the season with Paul Stastny coming back.
Yeah, I'm not too afraid of this Vegas team down the middle other than William Karlsson. I don't really feel that Stastny's the money player that Vegas invested in.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate for them that Pacioretty's kind of been a bust this year, no? That's been a tough pill to swallow. I have a buddy of mine who's a massive Habs fan. He's from Montreal, and he told me, he's like, watch, he's a cancer. They're going to trade him out of Montreal. He's going to go to Vegas and just be a total shit show, and Tatar's going to blow it up here in Montreal. And that's kind of what's happened.
I've enjoyed it because I love Thomas Tatar. Not that I hate Max Pacioretty, but he's also American, so that
I was waiting for the American right now.
There. But Pacioretty not been good. 10 goals, 9 assists in 30 games this year. Like I said, he's out with an injury. But this is a guy for a long time was a perennial 30-goal scorer, and just had the one bad season we thought in Montreal last year. Come to Vegas, given the opportunity to play on the top line for a bit, I believe, with Marchessault and William Karlsson. Didn't work out. Up and down the lineup. Got his spot taken him from Alex Tuch, who's been unbelievable this year. He's got 30 points in 34 games. But big surprise. Are you kind of glad the Ducks didn't go for him because they were in on Pacioretty? And imagining, like, looking up what...
we were high on the opportunity.
Yeah, looking up what Vegas ended up having to give up for him with Nick Suzuki, and I believe a first-round pick as well, and then obviously Thomas Tatar, who was just a throw-in on that deal. The Ducks would have had to give up a lot. Like we've talked about this before, probably Ondrej Kase, maybe Sam Steele or Isac Lundestrom, and a first-round pick. And you look at his production there. Not to say he would have the same production in Anaheim as he's having in Vegas. He could have very well had a better season, maybe playing with Ryan Getzlaf. But for a guy who's now 30. And you gave up, you're already a team who doesn't have a deep prospect pool. You give up one of your best forward prospects and a first-round pick to pick him up, and he hasn't done anything.
No, so that's good for Anaheim to not have to worry about him on Friday. They got kind of a mixed bag for this homestand, so we don't need to preview every game, but they got the Knights on Friday, the Oilers on Sunday, and then they get a 2-day break, and they have Ottawa coming to town, and then on Friday they get the Pittsburgh Penguins. So you get a couple of good teams, and then a couple of teams that no one's really expecting much out of, outside a couple of star players, right? I mean, obviously McDavid is always dangerous, and Hitchcock's got a little more out of this team than what they've been given. But they're not a great team by any means. So the Ducks should have, an opponent they could beat there. And that should always be a fun game. And then Ottawa, I mean, they should trounce Ottawa if they want to play at the level they played last night. And Pittsburgh should be fun. So interesting homestand coming up. Next 10 days are going to be some good hockey.
Yeah, I mean, Ottawa and Edmonton, no matter how Ottawa and Edmonton do in their next few games before they play Anaheim, those should be easy wins. I mean, just looking at tonight, Ottawa's lost their last 5, Edmonton's lost their last 6. So these are teams, if you want to be in the playoffs, if you want to be a team that finishes in your division, not in the wild card, you have to beat them. And they should beat them. I mean, Connor McDavid is obviously, that's going to be a tougher matchup than Ottawa. You got to shut him down, and that's almost impossible to do. But the Oilers aren't really getting much help from anywhere else. Cam Talbot's been horrible. He let 7 goals against the Flames last night. His job's been taken by Mikko Koskinen. But, man, this game against Pittsburgh's the big one for me, I think. And Pittsburgh's finally started to get things going. Talking about losing streaks, Pittsburgh's actually had a winning streak. They've won their last 6. They've won 8 of their last 10, I believe. And Phil Kessel is going. Sidney Crosby is getting things going. They're actually getting some decent goaltending. So it's been looking like a good run of play for them.
That's still going to be fun. Ducks beat them last time they played them, so that should be a good time. And that brings us right up to, before we get to some more post-game stuff, I know you want to talk about World Juniors, but we're having a watch party. Might as well throw that in here right now. There's our next Forever Mighty watch party. We eat the same Lamppost pizza we always go to in Yorba Linda, and it'll be on the 13th against the Winnipeg Jets. It's a 3 p.m. Pacific start, so show up. We're going to start putting it up all over social media, but we're locked in for there, and come party with us.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I won't be there, which is unfortunate, but I'll be there in spirit watching the game at home, and hopefully the Ducks don't suffer the same fate the last time we had a watch party where they lost to the Golden Knights, so hopefully that will be good. But you did mention World Juniors, and anytime I get a chance to talk about the World Juniors, I will take it. So the big thing, before we get into an update on how Ducks prospects are doing, the big news after Canada's 2-1 loss to Russia last night, which I know you love.
Is that USA won?
Yeah, is that USA surprisingly beat Finland 4-0. I don't know how that happened. I was ready to grill you for them losing. I went into the movie theater. Canada was tied at 1. US was up 3-0. So I was like, whatever, as long as Canada wins, that's fine. And I come out. It's now 2019, and Canada lost 2-1. So I wasn't too happy about that. But the big thing was I see Maxime Comtois trending. I'm like, well, that's surprising. He didn't score, so what's going on? And everybody, including Canada fans, are just ripping him for diving, apparently. And let me see if I can bring these up into the YouTube chat here, just into the video to show you. But he has at least one questionable dive each game that people are bringing up. But it got as far as people saying they should remove the C from him.
Brutal.
Nobody's looking at the fact that this guy does lead the team in goals with 5. He has 6 points. He's 3rd on the team in scoring. But man, it's crazy. I'll work on bringing these up, but I'm surprised that even like Canadian fans are turning against him.
I mean, there was a couple plays that I saw on Twitter, and it looked like he was selling really hard in that game, especially being grabbed from behind by the helmet, and his legs collapsed from under him. He got shoved. He got cross-checked a little from behind, and he goes up against the glass and throws his head back. I mean, it looked like he's really trying to sell calls there, and that's unfortunate. He's a kid, and that's what all these guys are. They're all kids in the World Juniors. I'm not going to condone anyone diving or embellishing at all. I mean, but it happens in the NHL too, and there's great players that do it. Yeah. So I mean, if you want to say anything about him, it's a learning experience. He's probably going to get ripped by his coaching staff. I mean, and no one's going to want to promote that, right? I mean, I think, and if they don't rip him, he's going to hear from the fans. No one wants to be known as that guy.
No.
So sure. Either way, he's going to hear about it. We'll see how he plays after. I'm not going to worry about one game with him doing that. Stripping the C. You Canadians are insane.
I was surprised too, and I've got them up here on YouTube to show people there. If you're listening on Spreaker or on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, I'll let you know who tweeted it out so you can see it. But he has 1 in each game. The first one was against Denmark, and Malte Setkov. He's kind of, I guess, at this point, he gives him a cross-check in the back and then gets a cross-check back from Setkov. Kind of flops down to the ice, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's borderline because Setkov does turn around and cross-check. I mean, it would be a penalty. It's interference. Comtois is obviously getting under the skin of some players. We see a similar one later. This one is in the next game against Switzerland, where Comtois is against the boards, and Kurashev comes behind, gives him a bit of a tap in the pants, and Comtois goes face first into the boards. I think of all of them, this one is the one I wouldn't call a dive, because you see his helmet come off. He does get hit from behind into the boards. I think his head kind of flips back because his helmet comes halfway up his face. He's got his chin strap up near his nose, so I'm not surprised why he kind of does that there. This next one is in the game after this against the Czech Republic. He's kind of getting in Martin Necas's face, and Necas gives him a swat from behind. But he does a really good falls down and kind of falls heavily to the ice. But again, I mean, I want to defend him because I love him, right? I mean, we all love him, and he's Canadian, so I kind of have to. But he's got the chin strap up near his nose. I mean, that doesn't feel good. And he does fall to the ice, which is a little bit much, but his head snapping back there. I mean, no, you that doesn't feel good having that there. And
pop the head back, but stay on your skates, man. You got to stay on your skates.
And here's the last one in yesterday's game against Russia. Getting under the skin of Klim Kostin. I think this is the worst one by far. He gets a slash in the ankles of Kostin, which wasn't really necessary. The puck had already gone. And then Kostin comes back and just gives him a cross-check and he just falls on his back. And no, I get it. I mean, I love the way he's playing when, he's engaging guys and he's kind of trying to be a pest. I love that. But, you don't need to fall on the ice to try and draw a penalty after that. I mean, you can just get under guys' skin. Eventually, they're going to do something bad enough that they're going to take a penalty. You don't have to dive to try and get it. And it sparks Klim Kostin to say that he thinks that Maxime Comtois was part of a circus and that Neymar, he likes watching the World Cup and that Neymar is his best friend. So, without calling him out for diving, basically saying he's a diver. So
has Comtois had an embellishment penalty?
No. So he's been doing it successfully, but a lot of and I think the reason it came out last night is because Canada lost. If they had to beat Russia and Comtois scored the game winner, even if he didn't score, we would not be hearing about this. You might be hearing about it in the moment. At least
not in this capacity.
No, you'd hear about it in the moment. Yeah. You would be like, oh, during the hit, if when Kostin cross-checked him down to that, you'd be like, oh, that's a dive. That's the third time he's done it this tournament. Come on, you can't do that. That would be it if they won. And we're hearing about it the next day now, and probably for the rest of the tournament if Canada doesn't win, because they didn't win against Russia, and because they have to play Finland now in the quarterfinals, which is a harder matchup, and they got to look for a scapegoat. And it was a close game, a tight game against a really good team, and Canada doesn't win the group because of that game. Somebody's got to get the scapegoat here, and Comtois was the captain, and he's the one who is diving on occasion, and he's the guy that got the blame for it.
Yeah. On the American side of things, though, not a Ducks prospect, Jack Hughes is not playing. He didn't play last night either.
I think he's hurt.
Yeah, he's definitely hurt. He's missed 2 games now. It's just, is it 2 or 3 is he missed?
Or is it a secret weapon? Is it like, we know we're good enough to make it through this group?
On.
Let's just save him. He'll
way.
Be fresh for the quarterfinals. We'll throw him in there, and now he's got to play 3 games. He'll be good to go.
He was a game time decision, and so that leads you to believe that his injury is not severe.
Dude,
but they're just like, they don't want it to get tweaked. They don't want him to get hurt. They want him to be ready for the medal rounds, right, when he matters.
Not many of these guys have played against him. They maybe have seen footage, that's it. So it's like, throw him in the quarterfinals. They won't have enough time to watch video on him. He's gonna dominate now.
It's great, too, because it's like, America can win without their best player, and apparently Canada can't, even when they have all their players. So we'll see how the United States does tomorrow and how Canada fares tomorrow. It should be fun.
All right, well, let's finish off the World Juniors with an update of the Ducks players and how they're doing. Like I said, Maxime Comtois has 5 goals and an assist in 4 games. That's good enough to sit in a tie for third in scoring with about 4 other players. I believe he's second in goal scoring, only trailing Ryan Poehling of the U.S., who has 6. Isac Lundestrom has worked his way into the top 10. He's got 5 points, 2 goals, and 3 assists in his 4 games so far at the tournament. He had a goal and an assist in the last game in Sweden's win. Lukas Dostal, surprisingly, has been one of the best goaltenders, if not the best goaltender at the tournament so far this year. Out of goaltenders who are, I guess you could say, are considered starters, so those who have played at least 3 of their team's 4 games, he has the highest save percentage of any of them. He's got a .957 save percentage, which is higher than the Michael DiPietro for Canada, who's second with .952, and then Finland's goaltender, who's played, I think, the only goaltender other than Sweden, who's played 4 games. He has a .934 save percentage. So Lukas Dostal's been great. And then if you're thinking I'm missing somebody, I am. It's Ole Eriksson Ek. He has not played 1 game for Sweden at all so far at this tournament. So unfortunately, I have nothing to report on him, which is a bit surprising. I thought he'd get some games in there. But, you know, other than that, Lundstrom's played really well, which we're definitely happy about. I knew he was going to be a big part of Sweden, despite not playing on the top line at times. Comtois has been good for Canada. And Lukas Dostal, I think, the most surprising one for me. He's been really dominant for the Czech Republic.
Has Comtois been that good? He had a 4-goal game against a team that has never played in the tournament. Outside of that,
Denmark's played in the tournament, but they're just not a good team this year. They're probably the second worst team. So he hasn't had, I guess you could say, a great tournament. Everybody's numbers get inflated in against bad teams, and that generally happens every tournament. But, yeah, 4 of his 5 goals and 4 of his 6 points have come in that one game. In the remaining 3 games, he has a goal and an assist. Nothing in the most important game against Russia, but nobody for Canada could really get things going. So I don't think he definitely hasn't had the best tournament of forwards. And you say he's third in scoring. Yeah, that's definitely inflated from that one game. So I don't think he's the third best forward at this tournament. I would say Isac Lundestrom has probably had the more consistent tournament, despite having 1 less point than Comtois at this point. And I would say if you want to compare him and who's had a better tournament between Comtois and Lundestrom, I'd probably say Lundestrom. But Comtois is right behind him. And we'll see. I mean, the quarterfinal, and if Canada moves on and beats Finland, the semis and the finals, those will be big games for Comtois to see if he can really show that he's a big game player, because we've seen him in the past. He's been a big game player. In big moments, he scores. I mean, in his debut, it didn't take him long to score for the Ducks. In his debut, coming back to the QMJHL, he scored in the second period. So he seems to score wherever he goes, and he shows up in big games. So we'll see. But the U.S. should watch out, because Lukas Dostal will be starting in that quarterfinal game, and he's been on fire. So watch out.
Well, if there's any time to bring Jack Hughes back to snipe up on a Ducks prospect, it would be that game. Let's hope they do it. I'm not a Ducks fan of World Juniors. I'm
future
USA
Ducks
fan.
prospect Jack Hughes, right? Everybody wants to lose for Hughes.
Future Kings prospect at this point, which is scary.
I hope
not cool.
I really hope
so.
not.
Let's just hope that's not the case. But yeah, so there's your World Juniors updates.
All right. Well, I think we're almost done. One little last thing I want to do, because I don't know, is it like this every year where game 41 is on New Year's Eve and then we go into the new year?
I didn't realize it.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it until I was setting up for this show, that it was game 41, halfway point of the season. And so half of the games were played in 2018 and half the games will be played in 2019. I'm sure it's close every year because the schedule doesn't change. And it's not the same for every team, obviously, because some teams probably haven't played 41 games. But just so happens that it's like that for the Ducks, and it works out perfectly for us because we can do a nice little season in review. It's a mid-season review while also looking back at 2018. So let's take a look at where the Ducks are right now. They've got a 19-15-7 record through 41 games, 45 points, which is good enough, like I said, for the first wild card spot right now. 1 point up on the Stars, who have 44, and with a game in hand. So after the Stars' next game, the Ducks could be barely holding on to a playoff spot by 1 point, and puts them 4 points behind San Jose for third in the Pacific, 5 points behind the Golden Knights, who play tonight, And like you said, a beautiful -18 goal differential, which is the only team currently holding a playoff spot in both conferences to have a negative goal differential. So the only other two that are close are Buffalo and Montreal, who hold wildcard spots in the East that have an exactly 0 goal differential. So, yeah, that's it's been an interesting year, I think.
If you want to go a full span of 12 months, I would say the two major storylines for me, just for Anaheim alone, is the fact that somehow Randy Carlyle still has a job. Yeah. I felt he should have been fired in that Sharks series. Immediately after they lost against the Sharks, Randy Carlyle should have been fired from that. After just that series was so horrendous. He lost control of his players. If he was condoning that kind of behavior out of his guys, they're a grown man, I get it, but you still follow your coaching staff, and they have a job to do, and you're there to listen to them, right? And it doesn't always go that way, but that was just a complete mess. And Randy Carlyle deserved to get the stamp of being fired at the end of that, and received his papers that night after they lost Game 4. And the other one for me is, we're not talking about John Gibson. I'm just talking about the youngsters. The way they've been able to step up and fill in roles haven't looked nearly as bad as we thought that this might be with all the injuries here in Anaheim. But that continues to be the other part of it, is the injuries. Season after season after season after season, the Ducks just seem to always like to be at the top of man games lost. And this year, the last 12 months have been no different. But those are the major storylines for me, man.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, we all thought Randy Carlyle was going to be fired after that series. Didn't get fired. And then with all the coaches getting fired around the same time, the Ducks went on their, 10-game losing streak at one point?
Mm-hmm.
And
it was something ridiculous.
He escapes that as well, and we've kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that he's going to be here for the rest of this season. The only solace I guess we can point to is he probably won't be here next season. He hasn't signed.
No, but he's going to be a whatever staff, something scout, whatever. He's going to be in the organization
because nobody, at this point would take him. I don't think anybody else in the league would take Randy Carlyle.
Well, I think Eric Stevens said it. Like, he's even talked to Bob Murray about it. Like, yeah, Carlisle's going to stay in the Ducks Ducks organization.
Put him in an organization where he can't really affect anything on ice. I'm fine with that. Sure. I mean, put him in a business organization. They do that with a lot of former players, like Cam Neely's president of the Boston Bruins. Don't know really what he's doing there. Is he really affecting what's on ice? Probably not.
Yeah, he got rid of Tyler Seguin, right?
Yeah, or Peter Chiarelli. But yeah, do that, sure, whatever. Bring in a new guy. I think everybody's excited for next season. I know this is a mid-season review, and now we're talking about the end of the year and what's going to happen next season. But what are your projections for this second half? So the next 41 games leading into the playoffs, do you think the Ducks make it? How do you think the next 41 games go?
Honestly, I feel like they do. I feel like they get into the playoffs. They're going to get in on a wild card spot. I don't think that they have what it takes to sustain any sort of prolonged offense. And we've seen that. We're back to the same Anaheim Ducks that was prior to the little hot streak. Yeah. There's nothing consistent about this team offensively. To put up 4 goals in a game where you think you're going to bounce back and take out the Coyotes, only to give up 3 straight goals and lose in overtime. And then you have a game like last night where if that was the way they played every single night, I would tell you flat out that this team is better than they've shown. But they haven't been consistent in any way, shape, or form. And they're honestly, look at their record. It reflects that. They're very inconsistent. They rely heavily on just a couple of guys offensively and their goaltender. The defense has been kind of ass sorts, and they have no special teams. So I think if they get in, it's going to be wild card.
They cannot play with the same record in the next 41 games. They cannot go into the new year and go 19-15-7 and make the playoffs. If they do, they're going to finish with 90 points, which is by far not enough to make the playoffs. You expect one of these other teams eventually to get hot and go in front of them, whether it be Dallas or Minnesota or Edmonton or even Vancouver. One of them is going to start playing really well and move in front of them if the Ducks just play at the same level. You also can't go on a 10-game and a 6-game losing streak and expect to make the playoffs as well. And follow that up with a winning streak, and 9 of your last 10, was it 13 of their last 14. That's how they are where they are at this point. They're a very streaky team on both ends of winning and losing. They need to find more consistency, even if it's winning 2, losing 1. Finish the season like that, you make the playoffs. I don't know how they're going to do it. Hopefully, Rickard Rakell coming back, Cam Fowler coming back in the new year, Corey Perry whenever he comes back in March, maybe getting somebody at the deadline. We'll see what happens, but man, I don't know how it's going to look. This next few games after, so Vegas, I think Edmonton, and then the next game after that, so Ottawa, that's going to be a big determinant to how the Ducks are going to do. Those are all winnable games. So, you know, when you're on a 6-game losing streak right now, you don't want to go into Pittsburgh, who's been hot, and be on a 9-game one.
No. If they go on a 9-game losing streak, Randy Carlyle's still not getting fired. It's not happening. He's here
made it past the new year. He's made it past 41 games. They could lose the rest of the games. He's still here. There's no point right now firing him with 41 games remaining and expect something to change.
No.
I don't think I would be surprised to see any coach fired at this point. You might as well just wait to the end of the season and ride it out. You kind of are where you are. You look at some of the very bad teams right now. You look at Arizona, probably not going to make the playoffs. They're below 500 at the midway point. I doubt it. Chicago, I think they've resigned to the fact they're not going to make the playoffs. Los Angeles, St. Louis, which is super surprising. They're bottom of the Western Conference, team we expected to be near the top. They're probably not going to make the playoffs.
They're done. They're not making the playoffs.
You look at the other side. Yeah. I mean, basically, you could probably look at every team below 500 right now. Unless they go out and win 10 games in a row, they're not going to make the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. So the Ducks are right along that border where they're going to be fighting it out with a couple teams. I think it's going to come down to them, Dallas, Vancouver, Minnesota, and Edmonton on who's going to get those final wild card spots in the Western Conference. Because you look at the Central, those top 3 teams are probably going to still be there come playoff time. It's going to be Winnipeg, Nashville, Colorado. In the Pacific, you could assume Calgary and San Jose are probably going to be there. Vegas right now with their record, unless they just fell off a cliff, they're probably going to make the playoffs again, which is very impressive for them. And then at some point, I just feel like with what Dallas has, I think they'll be able to consistently put wins together that they'll find them a playoff spot.
Unless they trade Tyler Seguin to Anaheim.
Yeah, we'll see. So then it comes down to who's better out of Anaheim, Vegas, Minnesota, and Edmonton, and I think it's really close with those 4 teams.
Except for Edmonton, you can't. I have such a hard time putting Edmonton in that mix.
I do too, but you know, they've lost 6 in a row, and they still are able to just win games because of Connor McDavid, just like the Ducks are able to win games because of John Gibson. And all of these 4 teams that I mentioned have issues that will cause them to either lose games or go on losing streaks or even go on winning streaks and possibly get them into the playoffs. I think they all have their faults or things going for them, and it's a lot of inconsistencies among all of those teams. So we'll have to see. It'll be interesting to see where they are at the trade deadline, because I think that'll be a big indicator of what direction they're going to go for this season.
I mean, the optimist in me would look at the Ducks' record and say they left 7 points on the table in overtime and shootout, and you add those 7 points, which is so easy to do for any team. I get it, but you add those 7 points to the win column, and next thing you know, they're top in the Western Conference.
Yeah, all at home too, which is
so
really
close.
Disappointing. All 7 of those OT shootout losses are at home.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah, so I don't know what their record is. I don't even know if, like, 'cause on overtime and shootouts on the road, I don't know how many times they've been there, but they've obviously won all of them because they have no losses in overtime or the shootout on the road. So I'd be interested to find out what their record is in OT and shootout on the road. We know it at home. It's probably pretty close to 0-7, right? I mean, you have 7 losses. There can't be that many more times they went to overtime at home. So yeah, that has to change too, and that's always the thing that comes into it at the end of the season because of regulation and overtime wins, right? You look at that, the fact they have 16 right now, which is lower than every team I mentioned, and if you're looking at tiebreakers, and the Ducks have played more games than all of them except for Vancouver, and Vancouver has 2 more than them, so that's a big thing. You win even half of them. Let's just say you win 3 of them, and you win those in regulation instead. You've got 3 extra wins, so 6 extra points, put you at 51 points, and you've got 19 on your regulation overtime wins. That puts you right on par with a lot of the wildcard teams right now in the Western Conference. So, you know, we can always look back and say they should, if only they had won this game, only had won that game, or if they had have gotten that extra point. And, you know, we see it every season with those teams that have like the 15 overtime losses, and it's like, oh my god, we left 15 points on the table. If we only had have got like 6 of those, we would have been in the playoffs. Or you look at Florida last year, missing out by 1 point. If they had won one game in overtime instead of losing it, or won one shootout, they would have been fine. And unfortunately, that could be the position the Ducks be in this year, where they miss out because of those points left on the table.
We'll have to see how this goes. Before we get out of here, though, we got to talk about the winner. We have a winner for the Forever Mighty Three Stars. They won a jersey today. It went to overtime, of course.
Yep.
Down to the wire. You kind of put it together today between the two competitors. You want to give some feedback on that?
Yeah, I think this is the third time we've had to do this, which is pretty surprising because I think we've only done 7 of these. We've had a tie at the end of the month. So then we always go into a game, the next available game, whether it's the next day or after, that isn't a Ducks game, just to get it over with quickly. And they did the Winter Classic today, which kind of worked out perfectly. It was a fun game to do it for, and we had the 3 questions for that. It was between Tabernac1909 on Twitter and Squirtman23. And there was, I think, one of them had Pasternak, one of them had Marchand, the other had 3-1 and 3-2 for the score, and then the final category was combined shots for. The first 2, both of them were wrong. Came down to whoever was closest to the shots for category, because I had some tiebreaker bonus questions, and they both picked the same guys. So it came down to whoever picked the closest to the shots. I think it was over 70 shots combined. One of them had 42, and Squitman23 had 52. So he ended up winning the jersey, and he could decide who to pick. He's picking the Ducks' 25th anniversary jersey, which, of course, everybody wants that.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? I wanted it. Got it for Christmas, right? Everybody wants that jersey. So if you have our Twitter and you're hearing this now, I don't know if the poll's still up, but he's having a vote on our Twitter on who he should get on the back of his jersey between Ondrej Kase, Rickard Rakell, and John Gibson. Last time I checked, John Gibson is still winning, so let me quickly update that right now. 95 votes. John Gibson has 49% of them. So unless somebody jumps on the Rickard Rakell or Ondrej Kase bandwagon, Squidman will be getting a 25th anniversary John Gibson jersey, which isn't that bad. Chris Hurt had that this year as well. So
that's awesome. I love it. We can give away jerseys like that. We do puck giveaways, but that's our friends at Cool Hockey, man. Go to coolhockey.com. Check them out. They're the ones who provide that jersey and make us, able to give away just an amazing product. It's legit. Coolhockey.com. You can get any jersey customized. It doesn't have to be a Ducks jersey, and you don't have to win it to get a prize from there. You can go there and buy a jersey, get 20% off, which saves you a boatload when you're spending over $200 on a jersey. Just use our promo code FM20 when you check out to get 20% off your jersey at coolhockey.com. And we got to talk one more second about the watch party. Again, it's January 13th. It's a Sunday, but it's an afternoon game. We got a 3 p.m. start. Jason and I will probably be there around 2 o'clock in the afternoon to set up. We're going to have prizes. We're going to have giveaways. But more importantly, we get to drink and eat pizza with everybody who likes watching the Ducks. And hopefully the Ducks come away with a win on the road against Winnipeg, which is no easy task. But you throw John Gibson in that, and just about anything's possible. And you get to start fresh this Friday for our Forever Mighty 3 Star starting here in January against the Golden Knights. That will be your first opportunity to try to win a jersey, just to kind of go back to that for a sec. But that's it for us. We have some exciting things coming out here in 2019. Some new things coming up for our Forever Mighty post-game show, so stay tuned on that on all of our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We'll be all over the place, and we'll talk to you guys on Friday. Have a good one.
Thanks for ruining my show, by the way. That's it. I'm sorry you guys had to sit through that, but this is an obligation, contract obligation, they told me. So my kneecaps are sweating, and I really got to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to have to let you guys go. Thank you. Bye.